Patrick, thank you so much for coming on and spending time with us today. And it is so much appreciated. It's always lovely to speak to you. It's also really lovely, and people in the group have been really excited to hear about you. You're this mystery figure that we always talk about at the retreats. Somebody in the last retreat said maybe Patrick should just remain this mysterious person in the background, but today we are bringing you
Yeah,
forward.
so here I am. Yeah. Mm.
Thank you so much for taking time. I think first, if we can just start by you introducing yourself and just saying, who you are, the work that you do, because I think many people are already familiar in the Shangriballa group of your work, but just for those that are not, and how you got to do this fantastic work that you are doing.
Mm.
Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So I work mainly as a trauma therapist, and but I call that non-dual therapy because it's also very linked with the discovering and understanding our true nature, and it's based on a somatic integration of the trauma in the body by feeling the experience and finally just letting go of all resistance and surrendering to the experience. And then everything transforms and bring you back to peace. I also work as a meditation teacher and yoga teacher. Yoga is more for like a hobby, for the fun. But the big part of the work is meditation and trauma therapy. And well, if you want let's maybe make the short story because it's a 30 years process. So I'm going
Yes.
to summarize it in a few lines. But so it all began with a trip in India. It was in 1994, and at this time in my life, I was completely off the track. I was, living mostly at nine and, drinking a lot, having drugs, rock and roll, everything. No yoga, no spirituality, nothing. So I went to India, but not for the spirituality, just as a trip, as a backpacker. And then, well, you have yoga in India, so I thought, okay, maybe I try yoga to see what it is. And I sat and do the class. It was in Tiruvannamalai. And I did the class, it was Hatha Yoga, and everything opened. Well, no, I know it was not a big opening, but at the time it felt like, wow, the whole world was full of light and understanding. I felt the energy, I felt the chakra. I thought, yeah, but this is true, that's incredible. And so I went to my journey in India, and when I came back in France, I said, okay, I'm going to do yoga because it's amazing. But you have to remember that 30 years ago, you had no yoga studio every corner of the street like it is right now, just very few. So I finally found one. There was this old woman at the door, and she said, "Oh, yes, of course, you can come in, but I have to warn you, it's not Hatha Yoga, it's Kundalini Yoga, it's very different." I said, "Yeah, but okay, let's try." So I did the class with her. And then that was another epiphany, like, oh my God, because Kundalini Yoga, it's like energetically 10 times more powerful than Hatha Yoga. It's really incredible. So I completely fell in love with the practice and I started doing it, maybe not daily, but almost daily. And after a few times, I don't remember exactly, but maybe a few months, or I had an experience, a very amazing experience. I woke up in one morning and I was really swimming into bliss and swimming into joy. Like my whole identity was gone. No more fear, no more negative thinking, just love. That was amazing. And I first I thought, oh my God, maybe that's you know a coming back of the maybe the drug I took, the LSD I took, or
Reactivation.
the ecstasy I had last week, or I don't know. But no, it stayed, and I stayed in this state for a few months. It was really amazing, but I was still doing a lot of party at night, and so I kind of burned a little bit of this energy. But I was the king of the dance floor at this time. It was amazing. But then what happened is that nobody could told me what was going on, and at the same time there was not this non-dual understanding that could have happened in the experience. So I was just fully immersed with this bliss. There was only love, but I had not this understanding, oh, this is what I am. There was still this root of the ego taking me apart from it and thinking, okay, I am having this experience.
Yes.
As nobody could explain me, well, gradually it vanishes. And very subtly at the beginning, it's like some, negative energy starting to creeping this wonderful space. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want this. What am I going to do with this? And well, I had not the understanding that I have now. Otherwise, I could have integrated things one by one that they were coming up. But at this time, I didn't know what to do. So I started resisting again. And slowly, weeks after week, ego was back fully, fully back in the experience. And then I thought, my God, that's not possible. This is not possible. I cannot live like this because that was the magic of it, is that it helps me understand that, in fact, even if life is okay, just being identified as ego is a terrible experience. It's so much suffering, so much contraction, so much negativity, so much conflict. And I thought, no, I don't want this. No, I know what is possible. I want this. And so I've gone with all my energy, doing groups, traveling all around the world. Then I met the teachings of Osho. So I went in Osho places, in different places in India, in Italy, in Germany, doing all these kind of crazy groups. So, of course, every time I went back from a group, I was feeling this opening, this space. But then after a while, everything started to creep back again. And I thought, my God, no, but I will never get there. It's never going to happen again, because at this time, what I wanted is the same experience to happen again and to stay forever. That's just what I wanted. So I did this for many years, in fact, spending a lot of money traveling. I was traveling maybe 2 months and a half, 3 months every year to do groups all around the world. And at a point I realized, but it's not working, because, well, all these therapies that was very cathartic, that was, even if it was in 2000 something, but the therapies were very rooted in the 80s model, 70s and 80s, very cathartic, so charge and discharge. So of course you feel great after, but so that's not really the true healing, as I understand now. And at a point I realized, yeah, but I'm trying to change myself. So in fact, whatever I'm doing, I'm still in conflict with myself. And so I'm still, being rooted in this belief that there is something wrong with me, and trying to change myself is just reinforcing this belief. So I thought, no, I cannot. That's not possible. I cannot go like this. And then the fear. Oh, okay, but what am I gonna do then? And then that's at this point in my life, I went to Tiruvannamalai, just like that, without looking for a teacher. I had been there many years ago, and I remember the place with a strong energy. So I say, okay, I go there. And then I go there, and there was this teacher called Muji who was there. So I sat in his presence, and then I thought, okay, that's it. Here I am. That's the final teaching. Because the teaching of Muji is very simple. It's stop. You are that. Stop seeking. Stop looking for something else. Stop any effort. It is here. You are already that. Stop. I'm like, wow. So I follow the Moji teachings for a few years. It was going in India, and then that's a time after a few years after that, maybe 2 years after I met him, he moved to Portugal and started to do regular retreats there. I attended almost all of them. And then diving deeper and deeper into the teaching, it started to really unfold inside of me this evidence. Yeah, I am that, in fact, and this is so simple, and this is, like, wow, what a discovery, in fact, but so simple. And after some years, I felt, because Moji is great, but he's talking all the time. He's really talking a lot. And during the retreats, you have sometimes sad songs that last for maybe 4 hours or something like that, with lots of talking. And so I thought, yeah, but no, I need kind of to digest this with the silence and to really reflect on this with the silence. So I found this teacher who was doing a retreat in Tiruvannamalai, 3 weeks in silence. So I went for that for 3 years in a 3 years in a row, yeah. And on the fourth, I stopped and then moved to another teacher who was in Tiruvannamalai. And then after that, I met Adyashanti, who is really for me, the teacher of the teachers, and really also with a very deep understanding of how it is to live this true nature into the everyday life. Because you have a lot of teachers, they talk about the self and you are the self. But yeah, but how do you be the self when you are in the bus or when you are in conflict with people or you are working with a group of people and the energies are not flowing? And how is it to be the self in this kind of condition? And teachings of Adyashanti are really, really rooted in the everyday experience. So it's amazing. This guy has contemplated all the aspects of the human experience. So I went with him until he stopped teaching 2 years ago. And now I feel, well, I don't need to kind of run or look for another teacher. And life is a teacher now, I will say.
Life is your guru.
Yeah, life is a guru, exactly. And so gradually over this process, um, of course, the way I started doing therapy. So I'm doing this job since 20 years. So the way I started doing therapy was very different for what it is now. And the way I moved into the non-dual teachings and my understandings deepening and deepening, my work also shifted accordingly with that. And at a point, I remember I was a bit lost because I felt, okay, there is nothing to do. So, in fact, all these things that we feel as problems, they are problems because we want to change them. But in fact, if we stop doing anything, it's not a problem anymore, and it unfolds, it moves, and then it vanishes. Okay, but how? How am I going to apply this when I run a therapy group? Just to say people, okay, you don't do anything. And so I was a bit like, on a platform when you took one, one of the 4 feet. And but after a while, everything started to become clearer and clearer. And then, of course, leading people into this surrendering become also more and more easy. And it's very, very nice. And also, it's a very fulfilling job. It's amazing. In fact,
Yeah,
it's a privilege, in fact, to do this job. Amazing.
really amazing. And it's so beautiful that it's through your own experience that you help others so well, that you've been there, you've walked the path, you know the feeling yourself. And so you are able to bring that to many others. So really amazing. Thank you for sharing your story so
Yeah.
amazingly. The first time I met you was in the last season at Shangriballa,
Yeah.
and was it last year, the year before?
It was in September.
In
One.
September. Yeah, so I mean, it was really amazing retreat. It was really a beautiful group, and everything was it was really really beautiful. But at the time, I didn't know anything about your work. I didn't know what you were doing. But then I think afterwards, as we spoke and you explained, and I did some of the therapy with you, and I got an understanding of how you work and how you see it. For me, it just all fell into place. I was like, wow, this was almost a missing piece for me in terms of what we were doing because yes, I had an understanding of it, but you put it so simple and such a great concept in the way that you did it and explained it. And really, really brought so much to
Yeah.
Shangriballa and definitely to the community already. And it will in the future. So we're really blessed to have you. This is really amazing. Um, so how do you think psychedelics could be helpful? So how do we say psychedelics is helpful in this process? So you had this first initial taste of the self, the expansion into the loving awareness, and then came everything else. And many times people report this, they have this taste of it, the sweet nectar of our being, and then they lose it. And then there is this seeking that happens, this
Yeah.
chase that happens to get back there all the time. And of course, psychedelics can play a really good role here. It can really help us to anchor back to this. So, what is your thoughts on that as integrating it into part of this practice of what we do?
Yeah, well, I think yes, psychedelic can help and give you an experience of the self or an experience of the flow state of the peace of the pure being. But that's not going to be the final point, of course, because that's not an experience. So everything you can do is going to give you an experience, and after that, the key is to surrender. So also for me, the gift of psychedelics and especially of Bufo is really to make you understand, but somatically, what it is to surrender to life and help you also taste that everything is in charge, you're being taken care of, you are immersed in this field of love, everything is okay. You can just let go, and everything is okay. And when the body starts to understand this, life changes. That's very clear for me.
Absolutely. And of course, and it's what we do with these experiences that we have that is so important. And I think this is where the work that you do and also the article that you've written and shared with us yesterday in the group got so much attention because yes, there is a process. There is a
Yeah.
process that happens after we have the experience. Integration and integration looks, of course, different for each person. We don't all integrate the same way, but this is a way, and it is one that can bring us closer to that connection to self. But I think it is very clear that there has to be a continuous release that happens even after the experience. So it is always release, 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 letting go, whether it is of concepts or whether it is of the programming that we have, or perhaps the traumatic events that happen to us, the samskaras, the imprints, all of these things. It's always about letting go. And your work is so beautiful in assisting that letting go. How do we do this? What is the recipe? Where do we start in releasing into this? And I think this is where your work is really, really valuable.
So that's a question. How do we do this releasing?
No, well, I have a couple of questions that people have given, so I'm happy to go to those
Yeah.
now. I just wanted to give a little bit of context around
Mhm.
the article as well. So, one of the things that you've so beautifully explained in there, and I know this is a big topic, I think we can have another talk on this by itself,
Yeah.
is the nervous system or the role of the central
Mhm.
nervous system in this. And somebody has asked, could you elaborate on what these energies that activate or reactivate these energies in our central nervous system, the old energies. So um, they ask, can you elaborate these energies and charges, how they become lodged in the system is the first part. And then what are some of the subtle ways that they might manifest in our daily lives? So even outside of the obvious crisis, what is the other subtle ways that you think that we can identify? Yes, my central nervous system is triggered.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so first, before going into this question, we have to have a kind of general understanding of how trauma works and how it is linked with the nervous system. So, and also we have to widen the definition of trauma because don't think that you have to go through hectic experiences or terrible situations to have trauma. We all are full of traumas. And what is trauma? It's very simple. It's you face a situation and it can be something very small. As a child, we are so sensitive. So it can be something like we see as an adult, we say, oh no, but that's nothing. Yeah, but that's not nothing. So what happens is that you face a situation, and as a child, if there is some kind of disconnection with the link of love with the family or the caregivers, it's really bringing up a lot. And trauma happens not because of the situation, but because of what the situation evokes in me. So the situation is here, I live it, and then in me appears this whole package of experience, which is, what is the package? It's emotions, feelings, energies, the reaction of the nervous system, thoughts, beliefs. Okay, we have almost everything here. So when this content of experience arises, if I can stay with it, it's going to reach a peak and then subside, and then there is no trauma. But if at a point it arises and I feel the fear arises at the same time, I say, oh, that's too much. I cannot feel this because maybe I'm going to be annihilated, or I'm going to explode, or I'm going to die, or they are going to reject me, or whatever the fear is projecting. If this happens, then the system kind of contracts around the experience, and then the experience gets stuck. So it cannot move. It's like a wave, in fact. It has to move to its peak and then start to transform. But if the way it's moving, rising, and then there is this part that says, no, that's too much. That's a resistance, the contraction, and then the energy is stuck. And it can be stuck for the rest of my life if I keep on the, the lid on the cover. That's for sure. So once it is stuck, it is here. And slowly, what is first energy, pure energy, I will say, it start to settle in the body, in the system. So in the muscles and bones and all the parts of the body, even in the cells. And no, the science has proved that you can reproduce with the cells. You can transmit to generation after generation, just because the memory of the emotion or the trauma is in the cells. So once it is in the body, the information is here. Of course, to not feel this anymore, I have to dissociate from the experience. So that's also the characteristic of trauma, is dissociation. So I stop feeling what is here and I start thinking, because thinking, I don't feel. That's great. That's a magical trick. So I start to think and analyze and try to compensate and to change things, but just in a conceptual way, but I don't feel anymore. And we could say that all the personality and the identity, it's based on this process of disconnecting and involving myself in a created identity, so that I don't feel what is here. Anyway, so we have the concept of trauma, but we see that the content, even if I don't feel it anymore, okay, I'm not aware of it, but it's in the body, and the nervous system is still treating the information, because the information is still here. So let's say we have the situation, we go back to this initial situation, and I have all the content. Okay, so I say, no, I can't, it's too much, I'm gonna die. Okay, so it's settled in the body. But for the nervous system, the content of the experience is still here. So it's still treating the information, and the nervous system cannot understand that the situation is over, I survived, and so I can relax. No, I can't, because it's still here. So I have to maintain all the levels of activation to survive, because I'm still in the situation. In fact, that's the problem with trauma, is that with the nervous system, you're still in the situation always, until finally you resolve the trauma. And then the healing is when the nervous system understands, okay, it's over, I survived. So I don't have to maintain this level of vigilance or this energy of fight or flight. It's okay, in fact, it's gone. Oh, wow, great. Because nervous system doesn't understand time. There is only the present moment for the nervous system. So time is only creation of the mind. So nervous system is no time in the moment. Yeah, if I feel the energy, okay, that's still true. So what was happening when I was 3, it's still going on right now.
That's right. Yeah.
So the healing is for me, it's really integrating the trauma and all the layers of the trauma. So emotions, feelings, sensations, energies, and also thoughts and all the beliefs that were created by the experience. But the main part is reaching this regulation of the nervous system. And this you cannot, what's the word? You cannot make it happen. You know,
Yes.
the mind, even if the mind says, okay, but I know this is past, I survived, no, I am this age and this was happening at, no, that's 2 layers of the mind that cannot come together and share the same experience. And the part of the nervous system, it's so much stronger because it's here for survival.
Yes.
So it's the whole energy of life under it that's looking for a way to survive. So it's an adaptative mechanism, in fact. So the mind, the let's say
The
the
intellectual
reflex mind,
mind. Yeah.
which is here, yeah, which is more the frontal lobe, it's so far away from this. This is really the reptilian brain, and it's so much more powerful. So we have to come back to the regulation of the nervous system, and then when this happens, we know it's over. Which
Yes.
means that I can, as an adult, I can face the same situation that was triggering me before. If when my nervous system has understood that the original trauma is gone, it's finished, I go back to the situation now and I feel, oh my God, but before I was activated, I was doing like, this tantrum, and now it's like, okay, well, so simple. So it's like that.
Yeah, for sure. And would you say this is also very clear? Because many people say many patterns just keep repeating in my life. And it is what you've just explained, that it is just these unresolved sort of traumas or blockages. And yes, we store them in our body. They are physically somewhere present here. And the central nervous system is
Yeah.
activated by that. And so we keep reliving these same experiences. They might come in different packages, but they are still triggering the same thing.
Yeah, and that's also one issue with the classic therapies, because in classic therapies, we are trying to change our experience.
Yes.
And as long as we are trying to change the experience, we are still in conflict with the experience.
Yeah.
So this conflict doesn't give enough space for the real healing to happen, which is real healing is when you completely let go and you say, okay, so there is this content. And this content, I didn't create it, okay? It's life, it's a movement of life. It has a very good reason to be here. It's an adaptative mechanism. It's here to help me to cope with the situation. So how is it if I just let life deal with its own creation? In fact, that's it. And if I just, okay. So yes, it's going to be uncomfortable, but just for a few minutes. The content is not here to stay long. It's not designed like this. It can only stay if I resist. But if
Yes.
I stop resisting, generally about a few minutes after, it starts to dissolve.
Yeah. And it was never meant to be there permanent. It was just part of
No,
the human experience. We were never meant to hold on to it.
yeah,
It was meant to just be fleeting moments and not
exactly.
not for us
That's
to stay there.
so there is a wisdom also in the language, because we have this in the definition of energy. E for definition of emotion. Sorry, E is for energy and motion is for movement. There is really this understanding that, yeah, it's a movement, and it's not an emotion. It doesn't stay for hours, stay for a few minutes. So if it stays for hours, then I have a good indication that I'm resisting the emotion,
For sure.
in a way or another. Yeah.
And I think we live in a time as well where, we are very much programmed not to deal or to peak within these experiences. Many things teach us to cut off,
Yeah.
be positive, think positive, don't be like this. Even families snap out of it, you're okay, everything's fine. And so
Yeah.
we are constantly programming ourselves not to really go deep within these parts of
Yeah.
ourselves because
Yeah.
it's best not to
Exactly.
do it. It's best not to do it now.
Exactly. And also, if you take a look at what's going on into the spirituality in general,
Yes.
It's very based in resistance. In fact, if you look, it's like replacing the bad by the good, replacing anger by compassion, replacing negative thinking by positive thinking. Guys, if you want to go on like this, that's called inner conflict. So you're at war with yourself. So if you want to find peace like this, good luck.
Yeah.
Good
And,
luck.
and I think that's why for most people they keep on seeking, and the seeking is
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
externalized. So it could be from one guru to a next, from one
Yeah.
modality to a next, from one psychedelic to a next, from one modality to a next. And it just keeps going, it just keeps going. Because it's not quite there. It's not quite there. Because although we feel really good when we do it, or when we are there, or when we are in the experience, we feel fantastic. But then the coming days and weeks after, that's it. We are going straight back there, and then maybe something else will help. And so,
Yeah, and then also this is reinforcing the negative images of ourselves because we see that we will never reach, someone gives a kind of a recipe for happiness and say, oh, you have to do this and this and this. So you try, but of course we can't because we can achieve control like that and be free with the control. So you do everything and after a point you say, okay, but no, I'm not reaching there. That's not possible. And then, okay, the deflated self is, fueled with more energy. And when we say, okay, but you don't feel anger, send compassion to the situation. And when you feel, but I can't because I can't, I'm so angry, then you judge yourself. No, that's not like that. That's not working. It cannot work like that. It's not possible.
absolutely. And I think, not to expand too much because your work is so broad. But one other thing that I think is really beautiful is that, in your method, you don't need to relive the trauma. You don't
No,
need to overanalyze.
no,
Where does
no.
it come from? Was it from my mom? Was it from my father? And then should I blame them?
Yeah,
Should they apologize to me? And it's the releasing is not the overanalyzing or dissecting of trying to
yeah,
find the reason, but
yeah,
rather
yeah,
to just let
absolutely.
go.
Yeah, yeah, it's really not reliving the trauma, which can be a re-traumatization, in fact. It's really experiencing the content, but from the state of presence, in fact, where you can really allow everything to be as it is and feel into it. And well, if someone listen to this and feel okay, but I am not aware to be present with the experience if I'm by myself. Yeah, that's why we are having sessions, and that's why you ask for a therapy or you do this in a group because with the co-regulation, it helps you to have enough security to stay present with the experience. That's just what it is, being present with the experience, but not reliving. It's completely different because reliving means you're completely identified with this and you go into the tantrum and the trauma. Here it's more, I won't call that meditation, but it's more meditative. It's really being present. You feel it in your body. It can be really strong. Sometimes the body can shake and you can have tears and also screams, but you are present with it. You are not invested in the experience. It makes a very big difference.
And so when we get this practice right, when we can live our lives from this, of course, it doesn't mean that nothing is going to happen again in the future that might cause us some upset, or some traumatic event might still unhappen to us. There might be some terrible loss, or maybe some mourning, something that has to happen. But then, we are more well equipped in dealing with those, and in the moment when they're unfolding, to really be with that, and really to feel it fully, and really let it soak into our being in the present moment, and bring it into that loving awareness. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't happen, or that we are not going to feel, but that we are so well equipped to peak in the moment, which is the right time to do it, and not to stay there.
Yes, exactly. For me, the key where with what you can measure or your realization is the how much you can surrender into life and accept everything as it is. And then when you are aware that you are resisting and that there is inner conflict, is to take time and say, okay, what's going on? And start to feel into your body and feel what's going on and start to release from the body.
Yes.
That's
And,
Yeah,
and I think this is another great, I think, concept of knowing the self. And I
yeah,
think when we talk about Ramana Maharishi's beautiful way of knowing the self, he does refer to the direct path of knowing the observer, but there is also a part of us in the body and in the human experience of knowing that self.
yes, yeah,
And I think it also requires, if you are ready, an immense amount of honesty, only honesty to yourself, to really get to these places and then to let them go and to release them. And
yes,
and it is, I think it's part of the ancient teachings, but we are bringing some of the modern things into it that so that we can understand it from our modern day perspective, but bringing it into the loving awareness of our being, which is always the present moment loving awareness. In
yeah,
this light, of course, anything can dissolve, and
yes, exactly.
but of course there is a process. We have to work at this sometimes. So really beautiful.
Yeah, and it's a way to learn gradually. You first you do this a few times, and then every time you do it, you learn a little bit deeper and deeper. Is to learn how to cooperate with life, in fact, because that's all that is needed, in fact. When you have this non-dual realization, you understand I am life. I am life. There is not even consciousness and life. Is that I am life and conscious at the same time. And okay, so if I am life, who is trying to resist life and to direct it in the way I want to know? So it's a learning to how to yeah, let life be and cooperate with life. And for me, this is you have a point where the search stops or the quest stops, but the discovery, the investigation, it's ongoing because you understand that you can always reach a deeper surrender, a deeper letting go, a deeper unity with this. It's and I remember my last teacher Adyashanti saying this, like yeah, the process it's ongoing, it will never stop because the capacity of the limit, how the limited can incarnate the infinite, it will go on more subtle and subtle and subtle and subtle levels, but it's an ongoing process, and it's well for me it's a passion, in fact.
It
So
is.
many to discover deeper and deeper layers of the human experience. It's such like wow, wow, incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah, it is. And it's also so liberating. It's so
Yeah,
liberating when you let go and just, yes, it's okay. It's so liberating for sure.
yeah. And when I was telling my story at the beginning, I forgot to mention before because I thought I had a, let's say, quite a deep understanding of what was surrendering, but when I had the second session of before, I really understood much, much deeper and really organically, like every cell of my body was like, wow, oh my God, that's true surrender, guy. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that was amazing. And so after that, I can tell that the way I led the session also changed a little bit. So some people, some of my clients saw it. It's not big changes, subtle, but yeah, was more.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, I think Bufo can bring when you take it, and no matter how many times you take it, you
Yeah,
understand the concept that there is more. There's always a deeper release. There's always a deeper letting go. There is always because it is infinite, and so we can let go in it and let go and let go, and there's always more. There's always more to surrender into. But
the
it for me,
discovery.
it's so liberating. It really is so. It set me free in many many ways.
Mm.
Somebody here has mentioned the fear of feeling. So many people understandably remained terrified of the idea of engaging with themselves or
Yeah.
imagining that they are delving deeper into ourselves with awakening something bad. So,
Yes.
what
Yeah.
is the primary mechanism behind the fear? And how does it keep us fixed on the periphery of being, away from our true healing?
Yeah.
So I think
Okay.
there is this fear of feeling. and
Yeah, yeah,
and
it's
disconnection from the body, isn't it?
yeah. But if you take back to the what I was explaining at the beginning when I explained all trauma settled in the system, you understood that fear is the mechanism that say, okay, stop. The content is arising, and the fear say no, because if I go on experiencing this, I'm going to basically, it's always around dying, even if it's not physically dying, but I'm going to be crazy, I'm going to be annihilated, I'm going to completely collapse, or I'm going to be lost in the content and never come back, or
Lose
all
control.
around that, yeah. And maybe rejected, or sometimes with anger, it's I'm going to explode, or stuff like that. Okay, so the fear is here as a gatekeeper. And we have to understand that for the child, the fear is true because the nervous system of the child is not finished. It's still in an ongoing process of, building up. So the fear is, of course, the child is not going to die, but there is a risk of completely dysregulating everything if it's really too much. And the child, if it wants to if the experience wants to be fully released, it needs the co-regulation of an adult. Okay, so like if I'm in this very high activation and feeling it's too much, and then if an adult sees me and comes to me and say, "Oh my God, I see what's going on. Tell me," and I say, "Yeah, I'm so scared. I'm going to die." Oh, but and then the adult could, take me and say, "Okay, but I know what it is. I've gone through this, and it's okay. I'm here. I stay with you." So if we have this co-regulation, then the nervous system of the kid can integrate the experience. But as we have this characteristic of trauma is disconnection with the caregivers. So trauma happens when we don't have this co-regulation. So we are already alone with the experience. So the fear is here saying, okay, if I feel this, this is the end of me. Okay. So every time in my everyday life, when these energies start to, be activated, even if it's just a little bit, the fear is going to be here as a gatekeeper and say, hey, hey, don't go there, you're going to die. Because that's the same fear that has not been integrated. So that's why it's difficult to connect with the body for some people, why it's difficult to fear. And that's why we have this fear that say, if I go in, I'm going to meet something terrible. Yes, in a way, that's true, let's say. But the way you are going to experience it is going to be completely different from the terrible way it was experienced maybe at 3 or 4 years old. No, you are going to experience it with presence and you're going to see that it's not so terrible. But the fear is true, in fact. So it's but it's here to protect us. That's why we can see every emotion is part of this, the way the system adjusts, and it's here for a good reason. So fear is a gatekeeper. It's here to protect us from a danger. So the danger can be, yeah, if I feel this, I'm going to die or to be annihilated. So thank you, the fear. Thanks to be here.
And I think it's so beautiful the first time you explained that. I think it was on a retreat when you did a workshop around this. And I thought, yes, it is there to protect. It is there to serve a purpose. It is there, it is a friendly thing. It is,
Yeah,
yes, it is part of me. It is
yeah,
easier to let go into that when we change also our perception of what we see
yeah.
there.
Yes, and when you experience emotions without any kind of resistance, you can feel that every emotion is good. Even
Yes.
fear, even shame, even anger, every emotion is good. So, of course, we know joy. Yeah, joy is good because when we experience it, we don't resist, so it's
No.
good. But fear, yeah, we resist. But if we don't resist, we feel it's good. And you can easily understand this. Some people like to see, like horror movies and be scared. And well, because when you look at a movie, you're not involved personally into the story. You know that's not you. You're not in the movie chased by the zombie or the devil or whatever. So you can experience the fear, but it's not really yours because and so you experience it without all the resistance that you build when it's your personal story. And then some people find, yeah, that's nice, or I want another movie like this. Or some people like sad movies, when you cry, because sadness is good. So all emotions are good. And when we start to look deeper, we can see that all emotions are an expression of the love, in fact. They are here to protect the system, to take care of the system. And when you feel that, like in Buffo, you can feel that you are held in this love, or even you are this love, and all the emotions are here to manage the movement into this love
Yes.
and to protect, in fact, the life, to protect life in this field of love.
Yeah. And again, it's that loving awareness that we can bring to
Yeah.
it. Oh, just welcome, welcome. It's
Yeah.
the resistance that brings the
Yeah.
suffering,
All the
isn't it?
trouble is because of the resistance.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's say we don't have to get rid of anything inside of us. We just have to, and even saying like this is not very good, but let's say it like this. All you have to do is stop resisting.
Listening.
Because the key that creates suffering is resistance. It's not the
Yes.
content. The content by itself, okay, it can be uncomfortable, but the suffering is not because of the content, it's because of the resistance and the conflict that it creates. So then I'm divided, and there's this part that want to emerge, and this part that says no, and I've lost my peace, I'm in turmoil, but it's all because of the conflict. And
Yes.
things get attached to me only as long as I'm trying to push them away. When I stop, they vanish.
Yeah. So beautiful. Many times people would use even the concept of saying that I think I am possessed. And
Yeah.
maybe in a way this is true. We are possessed in some way by the resistance of our experience. But it
Yeah.
is this samskara that we are creating this complete it's almost this trap of our own making, and then
Yes. Yeah.
supporting that so much. So
Yeah. And this idea of possession, you can also link with well, Peter Levin was been working with somatic experiencing, which is a way of dealing with trauma and releasing the trauma and regulating the nervous system. He speaks about the traumatic vortex. When all the energy of their identity is involved in this vortex, and the more you start to be involved in it, the more you go far away and far away from your center in a kind of trance that can lead people to kill or to do stuff like that. But for me, that's the possession, that when you're lost in the activation of this vortex of trauma.
yeah. So I'd like to bring in a little bit of how this work is so important, and why it is
Mm.
so important in integration. So yes, of course, it can help us somehow to always live our lives like this. So we can learn to integrate our lives all the time. And I think it's important. I think integration doesn't start with psychedelic experiences, although it's very important, but we are integrating our lives every day. So it is important that we get good at integration regardless. So, but after having a profound or really beautiful, deep experience of the self, say with a Bufo experience, then afterwards, you have this beautiful sketch or explanation, and many people will understand what I mean, and I will share it again in this video so people can see it. But there is this black dot part that happens before we get to the natural child or the I am part of the experience or the experience of ourselves. And so sometimes when we punch a hole through it during the experience, I like to tell people that afterwards there is this hole or this crack that's been created, and the stuff starts to leak out on the other side of our experience. So sometimes many people report after the experience, a lot of things are coming up for me. I don't feel as good as I did during the retreat. These things are coming up from my childhood, my insecurities, all these things. And sometimes they might even seem a little bit heightened.
Yeah.
And I always think, good, this is very good. Because this is that opportunity where we can work with the deeper understanding of
Yeah.
ourselves and letting go.
Yeah, and it's quite normal, I think, to feel this. That doesn't mean that you have to feel like this all the time, but it's quite normal because you're doing this amazing retreat, you have a really opening of the being, or opening of the resistance, and there is more space in the being. So in this space, of course, feel that things that were repressed before start to feel, oh, there is space. Maybe I can be welcome, and that are starting to come up. Well, and say, oh, can I have a hug? So then you have the opportunity. Yes, you can have a hug, or no. But that's quite normal, in fact, that every time you have a big opening, then you have repressed stuff that will come up after a while, of course, because there is more space in the being.
Yeah. And what a great and wonderful opportunity to then work deeper with it,
Yes.
because we are more heightened. And like you said, there is more space. And this is a really beautiful time to go deeper into the
Yeah.
concepts of letting go.
Yeah, and the problem is that for most people, when this happens, they have this deep state of that has opened, and then they feel, okay, of course, I want to stay here forever. And so that when there is something negative, felt as negative popping up, it feels like it's going to spoil them from the state, and so the resistance happens again, and the conflict is back. But if you understand it differently, like what I say, like there is space, and so there are parts that were not welcome before that are already crying for this love, and that are not popping up and say, please, please include me in this space, because that's all I need. If you see it like this, there are great chances that you stay in the state and you
Yeah.
welcome the things one by one.
Yes. Because I think sometimes people come with the intention or, that they are going to let go of things permanently during the retreat, and then that's going to be it. And so if any of it surfaces afterwards, they think, maybe I failed. So now guilt comes in, all the resentment comes in, maybe it wasn't successful, maybe. And so all these things come up again. The protection mechanism that says, stop,
Mm.
stop, stop, stop. They all come up after the retreat. And so, but this is such a great opportunity, a wonderful time to dive deeper and to
Mm.
make use of these times to really go with these experiences. And of course, initially it might not be easy, and sometimes people need a little bit of help as well
Yes, of
to do
course.
this. And that's why, for many of our clients that have already worked with you that found it very beneficial, and I'm sure there's going to be many in the future. Sometimes if we do struggle with the concept, or we do struggle and the mind is a bit strong and we need to be guided a little bit, I think is where your therapy comes in so,
Uh,
so beautiful.
and
Um,
sometimes also we need to be guided because we don't really understand what is arising. We have not a clear view of what is arising, and with the setting of the context of the therapy with someone leading you, you can investigate into the experience because you feel maybe more safe, and then you can understand more. Because it's difficult to say yes if we don't know what we are saying yes to.
yes, yes.
So always already identifying what it is, that it's normal, that it's here, and it's okay, and then, oh, okay, so yes, I can say yes, no. But if I don't know what it is, or that's going to be difficult.
Yes, of course. Yeah, and this is where some guidance can be really helpful also. Because I think sometimes what I find as well, people have asked that I've experienced fear, and even sometimes fear within, say, the 5-MeO experience or the Bufo experience, intense fear, absolute terror. And so they really peaked within that. And so although it was unpleasant during the experience, there was an absolute unedited peak within that. And so afterwards, even if you could perhaps from an observer's point of view think that it was a negative experience or seemingly negative, or perhaps it wasn't, from my experience, people that have seemingly negative experiences actually do better afterwards in the outcome of the retreat because they peaked so much within that experience. And then, wow, okay, life is here. It's not like that. I can, and it's that peaking that happens sometimes during the experience as well.
Yeah, because speaking means they completely incarnate this energy. And if we take it from the point of view of life, in fact, everything arises and needs to be fully alive, to fully incarnate in a way. And then vanishes. Oh, like our body and everything, it comes to life, stay for a while, and then disappears. So when in an experience where the ego is not here, you fully make the is this energy alive, then it has raised the peak it needed to raise, and then after that it can dissolve. Of course, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's so beautiful as well that we can provide some context to what it could be or what it is if you do have a seemingly negative experience or an experience where you peak in any one of those emotions of fear or anger or sadness or whatever it is. Because for some people that happens during the experiences. We don't all meet God. It is a much deeper release sometimes for people. And so yeah, and so in those cases, yeah, it might happen, and but giving it a little bit of context beforehand so that they
Yeah.
understand, oh yes, I can welcome this. Yes, this is part
Right.
of me. This is all me. It's not
Yeah.
negative. I think
Yeah.
it really, really helps.
And it's also God, presenting itself as fear or as
Yes,
anger. That's that's the same.
it's exactly the same. And
We
it's
know
it's it's
the trumpets and the angels, but that's another face of God, of course.
of course it is. From a non-dual perspective, there is no separation. It is all just it experiencing itself. But of course there is still the human experience. We have to get past that. So yeah, of course. We cannot deny that. I have quite a few different things here, but I'm not going to go into all of them. I think there was one important question I think is really good. Um, so yeah, the resistance. So
Mhm.
people say, how do I go into the experience of myself and try and peak within these experiences in a positive way without becoming overindulging in this, where the ego hijacks the experience. Because you think about this, you're trying to release the trauma of your life, you're trying to connect to it, and then is there a point where you can become too overindulgent in it that the ego hijacks it and you go down another path with it?
Yeah, well, the most common way the ego hijack the process is by trying to do the process to change the experience. So that's the most common, and that's generally the last layer of resistance. So once you've understood what to do, like, okay, you just have to surrender, the ego says, oh, very good. So I'm going to surrender. And like that, I'm not going to have to experience this again. Well, this is still resistance. Okay. So that's the way it hijacks, imitating the God into with a
Yes.
beautiful white, white dress. So then you have to be aware of this. Okay. In fact, I'm trying to open myself to this emotion, but it's because I wanted to move away. So that's not surrender. So then you change a little bit the focus and say, okay, can I just let go of the resistance and fully experience the emotion and let it be here, even if it wants to stay till the end of my life. At least I want to experience how is it to be with it without the resistance. You see,
For
and
sure.
that's a shift. That's the
Yeah.
shift.
Yeah, really, really beautiful. I think it's so helpful for before, during, and after integration into our lives. I think it is just such a beautiful skill to have and to become aware of the self. And to me, there's a two-stage part to this knowing the self. The one part is first the release, getting familiar with releasing. Then the deeper and deeper and deeper self-inquiry. Then we get to the point of who is the observer of this, and then we can go deeper and deeper and deeper. But I think many people that try and take the direct path of self-inquiry, and of course this is so liberating, and for many people it works, but for majority it simply
Yeah,
doesn't. They just don't get that part of it. They can't get to that. Okay, but I'm nothing. My life means nothing,
yeah,
and but there is still this imprints, there's some scaras that it does mean something to them. It does mean something to the body. It's a felt experience that they still need to let go. And so I think this is such an important process of letting go into deeper self-inquiry.
yeah, really, really.
Yeah.
That's always for me, that's also the gift of before. because it's really helping the system to get rid of this energetic contraction of the ego, because when you're fully in the experience, you have no other choice than letting life, like suck back all these contractions from the system, and then it's such a beautiful way to let life do its work, in fact.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Patrick, thank you so much. I've taken up over an hour of your time, and it's really been amazing to share with you. And I know many of the people in the community is going to find this so helpful, and there's going to be a lot more questions
Yeah, good. So
about.
whenever you want, we can do it again. Maybe with some points, we can go deeper, of course.
Maybe break it down a little bit more. We have
Yes.
generally touched, very, very generally touched on
Yeah.
all the amazing work that you do. Because also there is integration in terms of meditation practices, and then we can stay connected. And so there's so much more to it. But of course, in this talk today, we've touched briefly on everything. So thank you so much.
It's
I
so
will
good.
link, yes, I will link to the bottom of this video as well, your article that you so beautifully shared with us
Mhm.
on the school group that I know a lot of people have already found helpful. I will link that to this video. I'll also link your website. So if people, it is in French, but Google easily translates it into English. So if people wanted to get in touch or understand a little bit more about what you do, they can also touch base with you here on school, and they can also ask some questions there. I'm also very excited, and I've already sent out in the newsletter that we will be doing a non-dual retreat that
Yeah.
will not be focused around 5-MeO or Bufo. So for those that really want to go deeper into the concept of self, perhaps some of our clients that have already had quite a few Bufo experiences, but they want to deepen a little bit more into that awareness and letting go, I think this is going to be a really beautiful retreat as well.
Great.
So I'm really,
Yeah,
really
so because
excited.
it's also important to understand that the access is more than easy, and you don't need to have to inhale any kind of a substance to experience this. It's more simple than that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think
Mm.
we have to ultimately reach for that point. How
Yes.
can we stay connected to the true essence of who we are without any external source? How surrender. Yes, we need time and we need some substance to help us to teach to surrender, but then we must get to the point of surrender permanently into our pure being. But of course, this is a process. But I'm looking forward to the retreat. So for anybody that is interested as well, you're welcome to inquire for the retreat, which the first one is in December. And so for the other retreats as well. But Patrick, thank you so much for your
Yeah.
time. It's always lovely
Yeah,
to
thank
talk
you
with
so much.
you.
Thank you. All your work is really amazing. So if people listen and they have not came to your groups, I encourage them, yeah, go, go, go. That's the best place for experiencing before.
Oh, thank you. Really amazing. Patrick, thank you so much. Much love and blessings to you.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Thank